Hello everyone, I'm Babli Jonathan and this is the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinox Television live from our headquarters in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. In our top stories, police officers fired tear gas and bullets at angry protesters in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. The angry Dakars took to the streets demanding for better working conditions and unpaid salaries, and the incident left several persons injured. And in sports, the Super Eagles of Nigeria rekindled hope that President Buhari's country may cross to the next stage of the ongoing 2018 FIFA World Cup in Russia. The Super Eagles just defeated Iceland 2-0 in their second encounter. Stay with us. Thanks for joining me in this edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinox Television. We begin with news on the Anglophone crisis. Serious gunshots were heard last night in Kwen, Bamenda 3 subdivision and in other parts of the northwest regional capital, and reports say gunshots began renting the air in many localities as from 9 p.m. to about 11 p.m. Ambazonian forces reportedly surfaced to put an end or a crackdown on the existing curfew that has restricted movement of persons at night for several months now, and some sources hint that a policeman or a police officer has been killed and some of the Ambazonian forces neutralized. Were yet to independently confirm this. Meantime, panic waves spread across the entire city of Bamenda last night, compelling several inhabitants of the city to remain indoors as a result of the prevailing situation. Now we take a look at latest news streaming in from Cameroon's upper house of parliament, notably concerning the Anglophone crisis, and news streaming in from the upper house of the country's parliament see an updated list of soldiers who lost their lives in the ongoing Anglophone crisis in the two English-speaking regions, the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon, has been presented to Senate members in a plenary sitting that was, of course, earlier today. An updated list of defense and security forces who have been killed in the political unrest in the northwest and southwest regions have been was read out during a plenary sitting of the Senate that was earlier today, and the reading of the list by the minister delegate at the presidency of the Republic in charge of defense, Joseph Betia Somo, was provoking incident at his it provoked a lot of emotions in the upper house of parliament. That was in response to the question in the security condition of the northwest and southwest regions of the country, and the Minister of Defense read a long list of 84 military personnel killed in the northwest and southwest regions of the country. The minister responding to the question from senators as concerns the Menka incident in Pingin Santa subdivision some weeks ago, said with bravery, courage and professionalism, the defense forces of the country are continuously exercising their duty in protecting the country's territorial integrity. Minister Joseph Betia Somo also said that the military is doing everything possible to rid the country of to get the country rid of a group of individuals qualified by many government officials as terrorists, including the Minister of Communication and even the Prime Minister, who has qualified the independence of fighters in the northwest and southwest regions of the country as terrorists. In the same vein, we go over to the southwest region of the country to take a look at the situation over there, notably concerning the Boya-Kumba Highway. Passengers in the southwest region have now remained stranded at some motor parks due to an astonishing increase in the transport fare provoked by the escalating tension in the region, and passengers at the Mile 17 motor park are compelled to pay the sum of 5,000 francs CFA to travel to Kumba instead of the usual 1,500 francs CFA. It should be recalled that that highway was blocked for several days by separatist fighters. I told you earlier that a standoff between some dockers at the Douala seaport and forces of law and other police officers, notably here in the city of Douala, left many of them injured. They went protesting in front of the entrance, one of the entrances into the seaport, the Douala seaport, demanding for better working conditions and other issues. They presented their grievances, but the police came out in their numbers to quell down the protests. We have details with a reporter who was on the ground. For me, Armstrong Sanda.
Workers on the streets manifesting their grievances in one of the entryways into the port of Douala. They are in a standoff with police officers who have been dispatched to disperse and calm them. Live and rubber bullets, police firing tear gas at the striking workers characterized the scene, some of them wounded. From the entryway to the Douala seaport, the strike action is spreading into Aqua as police continue chasing the demonstrators. They came out en masse to compel the administrators of the Douala seaport to improve on their working conditions.
Ils sont vraiment, aujourd'hui, ils ont compris que rien ne lui vaut plus, à part la mort. Parce que ils sont déjà désespérés.
The dockers have understood that they are worth nothing again apart from death. We ask for a contract which will determine our minimum wages. We ask for an hour of pay of 2,000 francs and others.
Nous avons demandé aussi le remplacement de la carte unique, c'est-à-dire de la première catégorie à la deuxième catégorie à la carte unique qui donne foi à la troisième catégorie.
At the first strike, we had 11 points, you see, but they decided to give us 6 points. They went to the table, said that they go to sign a convention. Inside that convention, we have nothing inside there, you see. But even the convention they have signed, they don't want to put it in application, you see. Now, we are tired. Family allowance, okay. Contract of work, salary of basic salary, yeah. What we call card unit card. Yeah. Unit card, yes. There are many.
We have to affirm our rights because now we are feeling bad. Our children is not going to the school. Our wife is not running to our house. We don't have possibility to eat. We don't have possibility to eat. We need our rights. Please, we need our rights because we try to. We are doing the job very nice. There's no problem.
The national president of Dockers Association, Mr. Mvondi Ebele Jean-Pierre, said they have a total of 10 points. The Dockers said they have consulted all concerned authorities from the port to the ministries in Yaoundé, but have not received any positive response this far. This is why the Dockers have opted for this demonstration today, which they qualify as peaceful. The demonstrators rather met with a repressive reaction from the authorities. Authorities who came to the scene were unable to solve the problem.
So we are waiting to see the next steps taken by the authorities. But as for the president, they will continue to press on until their rights are respected.
Ça c'est la lettre que j'écris au président de la République. À son excellence, Monsieur Paul Biya.
The president is actually tense. I need to put on my mask because tear gas thrown today is not really easy.
We approached JPAC to get their own side of the story, but the gate was blocked for journalists.
And the country's Minister of Transport, Masina Nkale Bibehe, has instructed authorities at the Douala Seaport to create a platform for permanent consultation and dialogue between the administration of that sea transport or maritime transport institution and its workers. The minister was speaking during a working visit to the Douala Seaport today, and during that meeting he equally told authorities of the Douala Seaport to work hard to modernize the services of that seaport. We shall be bringing to you images and details of the minister's visit to the Douala Seaport today in a subsequent news editions. On to something else. The cultivation, sale and consumption of Indian hemp remains a major problem in the Republic of Cameroon, even though it is prohibited by the law, and 2 teenagers alongside 2 adults have been caught transporting the illegal product. They had been producing it and selling in Bafang in the west region of the country. Franklin Mwabi has more.
4 persons have been caught with marijuana in Bafang subdivision of the West region. Amongst the 4, 2 Mboro teenagers, Yusufa Hassa and Yahoma, aged 16 and 14 years respectively, were caught by the forces of law and order traveling with a bag of drugs in Bana quarter of Bafang.
A Cameroonian told us that he saw 2 young boys traveling with a bag. Inside the bag he saw a bad things called drugs. So we went in Bana quarter, Bafang here, arrest the 2 young men, Bororo, 14 and 16 years.
When the teenagers were questioned where they got the drugs, they confessed to have bought the drugs from a certain Itemba Toma and his friend Dachoa, who are aged 63 and 61 years respectively, who cultivate the weed in their homes.
Pa called Itembe Toma is the man who used to sell them the drugs. We went to Mwanke quarter and arrest the Pa. When we reach there, we see the Itembe and Dachua with the drugs in their hands.
The Commissioner of Police for Bafang Subdivision, Bidzaha Fandai, says
nous demandons toujours, le policier n'est pas sorcier, le policier est celui qui.
The police is not a witch, but in charge of verifying information and taking the right actions to bring justice in cases like this. The Commissioner further beckoned on the population of Bafang to work in collaboration with the forces of law and order.
In the report coming up next, we take a look at the ugly face of underdevelopment affecting several parts of Cameroon, especially the hinterlands. A case in point in this newscast is the Matuke locality. It is in the Mongo division, littoral region of the Republic of Cameroon, where many of the roads running across the municipality are now in an advanced state of dilapidation. Inosenazi reports.
This is one of the craters which, according to the population, have become lakes in the middle of this road stretch linking Matuke, Pendamboko and Koto in Banga subdivision, Mongo division of the littoral region.
La commune de Mbanga et nous impose l'impôt libératoire.
The Mbanga Council has failed to satisfy the desires of the people. We pay taxes, but good services are not given us. For 6 years now, roads have not been rehabilitated. We have decided to engage in community labor to render the roads accessible.
Parce qu'on ne peut pas vivre et tomber entre nous, parce qu'on ne nous aide pas.
The poor community relies on generators for electricity, boreholes for water, which they drink and cook with. At times, the boreholes run dry. Others say council authorities have been making barren promises to fix roads,
provide electricity and other social amenities.
Ils n'ont rien donné et les gens là boudent. Les gens là se plaignent.
Inhabitants of this locality rely mostly on agriculture with a lot of farm produce but no transportation means to markets. They also rely on cash crop like coffee.
Coming up, the smart side of the World Cup. Thanks for joining us in the smart side of the ongoing 2018 FIFA World Cup in Russia. And I told you in the headlines, the Super Eagles of Nigeria have rekindled the hope that President Buhari's country may cross to the next stage of the competition. The Super Eagles defeated Iceland earlier today, 2-0.
Good evening, Babila.
The latest.
Yeah, the latest is the victory of the Super Eagles of Nigeria against Iceland. I remember the coach, Gernot Rohr, before the game of today, said they are going to win, they must win. I don't know whether he was so confident about the victory or he already saw it coming, but it happened as he said, 2-0, and one person, Ahmed Musa, is already among the top goal scorers already, we might put it that way, because with 2 goals in a single game, it already shows how good and how pacey he is in that match. So it was a great game for Nigeria. Remember, they lost 2-0 in their first encounter with against Croatia, and it was like a revenge on the Iceland side that managed to hold Argentina by 1-2. It was a 1-1 draw in their first game against Argentina. So that spirit was brought down this afternoon or this evening by the Super Eagles of Nigeria, and I could see on the table it is Brazil who started the day, but we must say that this Nigerian game was the African crowd puller game this afternoon, because everybody knew that Nigeria, if they would have fumbled this afternoon, maybe getting a draw, it would have been a very difficult one for them. So the 2-0 victory was a good one, and I must tell you, Nigeria will go up now to the second position in the group, because already Croatia is already qualified for the group stages, 2 games, 2 victories. So Croatia is already gone. But you know that before the Nigerian encounter, maybe I will have images of the Super Eagles in pictures before we come to talk about the Brazil encounter. Remember that the Super Eagles game was won with one of the jerseys that many people out there, many supporters in Russia actually had it. This jersey, as you can see, it is a jersey that we are saying that it has cost over 3 million people to pre-order for this jersey out there in the World Cup village. They have gone back to the production house to order for this jersey, and maybe the jersey was the luck for Nigeria after they won their game. Maybe we'll have pictures of the Nigerian football team, that is the Eagles against Iceland this afternoon. Remember, it was a very good encounter for Nigeria and Iceland, and just to know that it was one of the first time both countries were meeting in an international competition. John Obi Mikel there, the emblematic captain, charismatic captain of the Super Eagles, who led his team into the Volden field today, and the goal getter Ahmed Musa, who was one of the fastest runners on the pitch this afternoon, and a host of other players who came in totally decided. Francis Ugozo, the goalkeeper, 19 years, who has the youngest age in the World Cup after that of Kylian Mbappe of France, and all of those things, they are the ones who actually made things possible for Nigeria to clinch the victory this afternoon, beating Iceland by 2-0. Now, maybe just for us to talk about what actually caught our attention on the field. We get a picture. We can't really say whether it is Photoshop, but we saw a picture of somebody who resembles Messi on the field, and guess what? He was putting on the Nigerian jersey, the one they used to play the game this afternoon. Maybe we'll see that picture of Messi, who was spotted somewhere. It seems it's Messi verified. If you can look very well, the face resembles that of Messi, who was also dressed in the Nigerian jersey, to say that, hey, Nigeria, I'm behind you. But don't ask me if Nigeria will, Messi is coming to support Nigeria because they are going to beat Nigeria in their last encounter.
Venezuela. It's going to be a do or die clash. And maybe the last issue we could discuss about this game of today, that is a game between Iceland and Nigeria, is to talk about the coach of Iceland. Babila, you want to understand with me that the coach of Iceland is a dentist. He is the first coach dentist to have qualified his team for a World Cup. This man is a dentist. Apart from being a coach, he is a dentist in Iceland. So it is historic for him taking Iceland to the World Cup. Now, let us see the classification of Group D, where Nigeria falls, just for us to confirm that what we have been saying here in terms of classification is correct. Let us see the classification of Nigeria in Group D. To note that Nigeria now is second in that group with 3 points. They are just beneath Croatia, who have 6 points in 2 outings. Maybe we'll have the classification of Nigeria in Group D of that tournament. That is the classification, Babylon. Croatia is top with 6, Nigeria 3 points, Iceland 1, Argentina 1. So on the last day, we shall have Iceland to confront Croatia and Nigeria to confront Argentina.
And the hope of Nigeria crossing to the next stage of the competition is, however, still hanging on a lot of mathematics there.
It's still hanging on a lot of mathematics, but if you look at past competitions, Argentina and Nigeria that have been meeting on several occasions, and of recent, Nigeria beat Argentina by 4 goals to 3, if I'm not making a mistake, in an international friendly. But they said Lionel Messi was not on the pitch on that day, so we are hoping to see Lionel on the field when Nigeria will confront Argentina. Now,
even though it's usually said that the football, the football itself is round, yesterday Argentina was beaten.
Argentina was beaten hands down by Croatia. Nobody believed. 3 goals to 0. It was a Lionel Messi who was frustrated in that encounter, but unfortunately for him, or unfortunately for him, he could not do anything. He missed a penalty and all of that. On Lionel Messi said, I'm sure he should be very, very disappointed with himself after yesterday, but I'm sure they are going to put on that spirit to face the Super Eagles.
And when we look at the performance of the Argentinians yesterday, can we say that the chances of Nigeria surviving in the hands of Argentina are somehow considerable?
Now, the last match, if you look at the stakes, Argentina, Nigeria, all of them, they are in a situation that they are in a must-win or a draw. That is, I want to say for Nigeria, they need a draw. A draw would make everything for them. But Argentina, they are coming for a victory. At
least a draw.
At least a draw. They will be very contented if they have a draw with Argentina on the last playing day. But Argentina, I know they'll be coming with the spirit of a must-win game. A must-win game, because if they have 3 points plus the 1 point against Iceland, they have 4 points. They are going alongside Croatia, that is already sure to remain in Russia. But if Nigeria manages to pull a draw with Argentina, then it will be Nigeria with 4 points. Croatia, we don't know how their match with Iceland will end. Against Iceland will end. So that is the situation in that group.
Right.
Now, we had matches that were played earlier on. Before Nigeria, we had this wonderful game between Costa Rica and Brazil. And I want to tell you that Brazil have beaten Costa Rica 9 times of their last 10 games. And the last victory between these two teams was that of Costa Rica in 1960. So, statistic, you want to see it, it was a greater ball possession by the guys of Neymar, that is Neymar Jr., who actually dominated. And remember, these goals of Brazil came at towards the last minute of the game. That is, it was during the injury time, to tell you that Costa Rica really held Brazil right up to the end of the game before they let loose. And at the end of the day, Brazil went home happier because it favored them out there in the World Cup. Now, one funny thing we saw yesterday was Diego Armando Maradona. He was crying, weeping after Brazil was defeated. Diego was weeping, and many people were asking, what is happening with Diego? One time world best player, what was happening with him? He was weeping because he couldn't believe that a little Croatia would touch Argentina. Yes, and maybe the last thing we should see is the results, a recap of the results of yesterday. Maybe we'll see the results of yesterday for us to conclude this edition of the Sports World Cup package. The results of yesterday were France also defeated their opponents by one single goal, but it was very important, a significant goal for France, as they too saw themselves moving out and to remain in France for the next stage. And you can see Denmark also pulled a 1-1 draw with Australia, and the game Argentina versus Croatia that ended 0-3 in favor of Croatia. Now it's time for us to look at the group pairings. Group C, the classification of Group C. If we have to look at it categorically, we'll see that in Group C, France is already sure to remain in Russia according to the classification that we're going to show, with 6 points, 2 wins in 2 matches. France is already top. Denmark will have the opportunity, should they beat Peru on the last day. They are already sure if they can beat Peru, and if Australia too manages to disturb France, beating France, then there will be an upset. And Denmark doesn't beat Peru, because for now Peru has lost everything. But you know, they say a dying person will look for the smallest thing for him to hold and survive. So Peru might not want to go out with no point in Russia. So Babila, that is it for the special World Cup pitch that we have this this evening. Just to know that for now, already qualified, just for us to recap, we have teams like Russia, France. We also have France, Portugal, we have Uruguay, and also the great France that have qualified this far for the next stage. And those that have already gone home, we have things like Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Morocco, and Peru. They have already gone home. And for now, we still have matches to come up tomorrow and after tomorrow. So the Group 2 round 2 matches are still ongoing, and several surprises are still expected to come.
Thanks a bunch, Smart Jikan Gabriel. You'll be coming back on set next Monday. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen. That was the smart side of the World Cup going on in Russia. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. Goodbye.